Okay, and we are live. Hello. Welcome to another webinar by Landing.Jobs. In this case, taking care of the topic local versus global IT staffing in a remote world. A lot of changes have been happening in last year, especially after the pandemic of COVID. So we're going to discuss that today. To talk about this topic, we have today José Paiva, CEO of Landing.Jobs and Soft Landing, and José Bolsa from Tony Talent. I ask each of you, please, to present yourselves briefly so that we can continue with the conversation. José? Well, you both are José.
Yeah, please, Paiva, start with you.
Yeah, everyone calls me Paiva, okay, from young time as a football player. Was not a successful guy in that area, but okay. So I'm José Paiva. I'm the founder of Landing.Jobs and now the CEO of Soft Landing too. I work during more than 20 years in a consulting company in different countries, and I have a lot of experience not only in hiring but talking and understanding how to lead with people across borders. Okay, I'm one person across borders. I was born in Angola, work in Brazil, work in Portugal, and it's not easy to understand how to work and lead with so different cultures.
Great, thank you, Paiva.
So thank you guys. First of all, Landing.Jobs to inviting me for this conference. I'm very pleased to be with you guys to discuss a bit about this challenging moment to have international talents and local talents blended. My name is José Bolsa. I'm co-founder of Tony Talent. Here our main focus is to help international talents to become international ready and to have an international career. My mainly background is in computer science. I was born in Latin America from Brazil. I came from Brazil. I have 25 years of experience, mainly working in IT companies, providing IT services and IT staffing. And my last job in Latin America was in a company with more than 2,000 employees, mainly in IT staffing area and also in IT services. I hope I can learn and share a bit about with you guys. Thank you again for the invitation. Let's do it.
It's a pleasure, José and José. So before we really start, I want to ask all the audience that we have the pleasure of having with us today, please chat, put your comments, your questions, where are you from in the chat, ask questions, it's below, you have ask a question link in that region. So we also will be answering some questions from the audience, but most of all, it's always much more interesting when this is participated, okay? Because besides following the script and having this discussion, I will be the moderator, Paiva and Bossa will be the stars of the show. We will also want your opinions. We want to involve you in all this. So, and starting, I think that there is a need to clarify some concepts here because as far as I know, what we call IT staffing is called very different things in different places by different companies. So what do you understand, by IT staffing? Are we talking about full outsourcing of functions? Are we talking about individual people? Are we talking about teams? That's one of the things that I ask. We have a lot of things to cover. Let's be as brief and synthetic as possible. Okay, so please, who wants to start?
Okay, you talk about two words that in some countries have the same meaning. IT staffing or external IT staffing have the same meaning as outsourcing in some countries. So sometimes we are talking about outsourcing people. When we talk about outsourcing people, is the same as external IT staffing. If outsourcing in a more broad way can be outsourcing of a computer, an infrastructure, but outsourcing people is more or less the same meaning of external IT staffing.
Okay, cool, interesting. So it's basically another way besides recruiting people to the company to have the tech professionals that companies need for their business, right? Okay, and in your opinion or knowledge, I think, why do companies need IT staffing? Why don't they just recruit and hire everyone to their payroll? What are the main drivers for companies to use IT staffing?
So if you allow me to comment some aspects on it, Pedro, is first of all, flexibility. As you grow in your company or you have a challenge, you can rely on IT staffing companies to grow your teams in a little fast pace that you can do by yourself, or in some situation that where you need to have some restrictions to hire directly, you can rely on a IT staffing company to bring more staff to your teams and to, I don't know, fulfill a project or to complement your squad or your team. And but I don't think that's only the main thing, because you can also use this strategy in your company to test your talent before you create a long-term, relationship. Sometimes you can use this strategy and try to hire someone from a staffing talent company, and right after you can check the cultural fit, the performance fit, and then you can hire directly. So something like this, especially now when we are in a remote mode, and most of the people are willing to work abroad. There are plenty of opportunities for you to reach out an expanded talent pool and use this kind of approach.
So it's more, in your opinion, it's most of all flexibility and the ability to get the talent that you need. Pavel, do you want to add something for this?
Yeah, so both talk about, in my opinion, two of the importance: flexibility and the opportunity to hire, what is we can call start to hire, and we will talk a little more about start to hire. I will include two more, okay? Scalability. If a company wants to grow as fast as possible, sometimes it's more hard to try to just use hiring, because hiring is more slowly. Well, for instance, Slack, when they decide to grow as fast as possible, they decide to use IT staffing to develop all the Slack application. Okay, and Google do the same. Okay, Google to develop new products when they have so many products that they don't have internal capacity and to compete with some in the market to develop faster some of the products that they want to do. Google decide to outsource or using IT staffing, external IT staffing to develop new products. So flexibility, start to hire, scalability, and last but not the least, that is very, very important. If a company needs to have knowledge in a new technology that is appearing, sometimes it's very hard to teach the people internally. So one of the approaches, imagine that you have 100 people in your company, but you don't have a specific knowledge or skills. You can hire 4 or 5 people, senior people, that join the team and teach the others in a way that I believe a lot. Learn by doing. So put these 5 external IT people with your internal team, and you can use to teach them.
Okay, interesting. One thing that you mentioned, is it me? Okay, one thing that you mentioned, Pavel, in your intervention was Slack and Google. And I have this feeling, that in the market, IT staffing is kind of something which is a bit hidden under the rug. It seems like no one does it, but in reality, it seems like everyone does it. What do you see as the kind of companies that tend to use more IT staffing? Because you can be talking about small, large, startups, established companies. In your experience, what are the kinds of companies that use IT staffing the most?
Okay, we are here talking about the reasons. Okay, we don't talk about other situations like costs or more local people. Okay, but let's continue in the topics that we discussed. So if only big companies are staffing, no, there are small companies. For instance, a startup that don't have no team. They have very clear idea what they want to do it, and just decide, okay, I prefer to use external IT people to create, for instance, I will hire the CTO or the product lead, and I will use external IT staffing to put me here in less than 1 month, a team of 5 or team of 10 for a startup to start to develop as fast as possible. So startups, consultant firms have a big difficulty. Imagine that we are a commercial that has 2 proposals of a project that need 20 people. Internally, they only have available 20. If they lose the 2 commercial opportunities, they have 20 people that is nothing to do. If they if they win the 2 proposals, they don't have enough people. So consulting firms use a lot of IT staffing, because it's the type of company that is more with different needs in terms of what are the proposals that they will win, and compare what with the team that they have. In the past, when I started working consulting, my first boss said, "Delivery is infinity, so you can sell everything you can, okay? Because don't worry about delivery." And we know that's not the truth.
Yeah. Bosa, about this topic, the kinds of companies that use more staffing more.
Yeah, we have some preconcepts sometimes that Google, technological stuff, doesn't do it. But as we just mentioned, they do it a lot. But you mentioned Google, Facebook, and Uber. They are huge, huge companies now. They're not startups. They are scale-ups. They are corporates, actually, now. So I don't know. Actually, Uber does a lot of it inside of their companies. And as Paiva already mentioned, it's a pretty common moment when you need to reach out in a specific pool of talent that you are not allowed to do by yourself. You can rely on a staffing company and can rely on IT staffing to try to fulfill the specific moment needs as a peak of demand, or when you are low in a demand, you can also use this strategy to do it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, interesting. And tell me something, because now we're entering the ground where, a lot of companies use IT staffing, apparently, or in reality, but I would bet that there's always some kind of tension between the internal employees, so the persons that have a direct work contract with the company, and the persons that are working for the company in IT staffing. And I know that they work in the same team sometimes, and there are some challenges, let's say, challenges that might have to do with culture, might have to do with some, for example, of the IT staffers being working full remote while the others not. Let's discuss this in an open way a bit. So how do you see this whole thing working or not working according to your experience?
One of the problems is to understand first what was the main reason for the company to decide to use external IT people. Okay, so if, for instance, the main reason is to hire in the future, definitely need to treat more close as possible these people. I believe both can explore more this. I will just talk about another thing, that is, imagine that we are not only talking about IT staffing, but for instance, independent contractors. That is very common in Anglo-Saxon countries, for instance, in the US. And again, using the Google example, Google start to hire a lot of independent contractors. By law, they are not considered as same as one is employees, who treat them as HR departments, and the independent contractors who treat them is the financial area. So the HR people pay the salaries, and the financial service pay the invoices. But how this can be a problem, not so, in the end, it's not so important, because all of them receive. The question is when we talk about benefits. Using the example of Google give a lot of benefits to their employees. And to have access to that benefits, you need to have an employee number. For instance, to use a Google bike to use in the Google campus. And if you don't have an employee number, you cannot use that benefits. And there are a lot of discussion in the United States about this, okay? It makes sense to treat people different, because in day-to-day in a project, the lead, CTO, for them, all of them are tech professionals. So it's more related with skills, and not if they have different relations. It's more or less, if we can bring here the discussion, like a man and wife, they are married by church, or marriage, they are just together. It's not a contract or a paper that creates a more engagement when we talk about work on the job. But to assess benefits and to other type of things, the companies, some of them treat this very well, and this is creating a big dismotivation for the tech professionals.
Yeah, but I bet that also some background noise here. That probably one of the other problems that exist in terms of progression, because companies don't manage the salaries and career progression of the people that are IT staff, let's say. Bosa, what do you think about this? Or this is a very large topic, I know.
Yeah. But it's a pretty important, and try to Paiva addressed it pretty well. I think when you look internal, external, and try to differentiate this, just because the legal constraints, it's a major problem to get the people together in a team. So as Paiva said, Google needs to do that because the regulation between the employer and the legal direct employer. But in a team, I think you need to address that as seamless as possible, because if you are working with someone and someone treats you in a different way, it's pretty complex. And I'm not only talking about treating you only benefits, but also understanding your culture, understanding your background, understanding your constraints, your limitation. Because now we are talking a lot about remote work. We are talking about working abroad. Different kinds of working, near remote, time zone remote. Paiva says a lot about it. I agree a lot on it. And but we need to respect some differences between the team, not only internal team, but also the external team. Not only IT staffing team, but people that are working with you in other countries. So lots of things to talk about it, but the main thing is you need to respect the people working with you as you want someone to respect you. If you are leading a team or you're working with someone, just try, even with some constraints, legal constraints, benefit constraints, contract constraints. I see that if you move a little bit across and try to bring these external people, because we are talking about people, we are talking about someone who are willing to produce and to be productive. If you treat as most as the same in your team, you are going to gather lots of good results.
But for example, the thing that you mentioned, the remote, and especially what it allows in terms of cross-borders work, and going to the topic of this webinar, local versus global IT staffing, a lot of companies are struggling not only with IT staffing, but also with some employees when they adopt a remote work or cross-borders policy to manage the cultural difference sometimes, because it's not so easy as it might seem at first look, right? But when it comes to IT staffing, I think it's even worse, because you have the company to which the person is working for, and then the company that the person is really working for in legal terms, who manages the person, who takes care and supports the person. So I would believe that there are a lot of challenges here. But let's change a bit the topic now, and let's get back to a term that you referred, I think 10 minutes ago, staff to hire. That's an interesting term, because the first time I heard it, I thought, staff to hire, this is what, just going to, I don't know, the word now makes sense to me, but I really want you to explain it better to someone that might not know what it is, and what are the pros and the cons of it.
So fantastic. Paiva, would like to start?
Let's start. You know more about this. How to bring international, how to make relocation with staff to hire.
Exactly. So we now here at Tony, we design our business model totally inside of the staff to hire, because we believe this is the key and the model to help international talents to be blended in the local culture with international companies. What does it mean? It's pretty simple. Like the name says, you can rely on a staff company in a contract that provides services, but these services are people and talents that will work with you. And in a near future, you can decide to hire or not to hire this talent, or internalize this talent inside your team, inside your company. But the most mindset that is important here is, in our previous conversation, is you need to blend this talent in your culture, company culture, and also accept the multicultural environment. So staff to hire, you bring someone to your team and not in your company directly, and after a while you can internalize and become direct contract for your company. It's great also, I'm so sorry, just to complement it, to use this kind of approaches. As we mentioned from start, you can use these to balance your ups and downs. You can use staff to hire to ups and downs, but you can also check the performance of this guy before. You can check the commitment of this talent before, and you can put some KPIs to evaluate the journey of this talent during a period before you internalize it inside your company or in your team.
Yeah, it's very interesting because I was thinking here we work a lot in tech recruitment and IT staffing and all of that. That staff to hire, in a way, can be a less riskier recruitment process. So that you have someone else choosing and assessing some talent to you, then you receive that talent and approve that person is working with you, and then you have a set of time, usually 6 months, 1 year, something like that, to really understand if the person is someone that you want internally in your team or not. So is this a competition to the tech recruitment departments? In a kind of a provocative way.
More than to answer if it's a competition, sometimes it's the environment that creates that opportunities. For instance, when we are talking about a crisis like we are living now, or I can talk about the crisis, I'm old, okay, sorry, that happens 20 years ago when we have the big crisis in IT with the crash of the bug in 2022, okay? Some companies have projects, but they don't have they are not allowed to hire. Okay, so they need to use staff in IT staffing to develop the projects. But some of them are trying to do it in a different way. That I know if I bring top talent to develop this project, in the end of the project we will have a big problem. Is my companies needs to take a decision if I will decide to let them go or just hire them. So the environment is they are not allowed to hire because of the crisis, the risk, and a lot of things. And so they use staffing. Then the problem will appear in 2 or 3 years, okay, when the things start to open again, or less time. I talk about 2 or 3 years because for what I remember 20 years ago, takes time. Okay, normal after a big huge big growth, when the companies fire a lot, normal takes some time. It's not just a month, 1 or 2 years for the hiring to recover. But that's not that's not the reason for not try to use people, because they have projects. So normally the C-level in the company side, let's freeze hire, okay, to see what will be the evolution of the market. But the projects that we have, we need to develop and try to do it as fast as possible. So they use IT staffing. When the market start to be good, in 1 or 2 years, what to do with these people that was invited to join the team as external people. And we'll start to discussions what the boss said, okay, if they were treated well, the people wants to be hired or not. So it's always very important what was the reason that takes the company to decide to use IT staffing. If it's to hire or it's because of other reason, but sometimes the reason today can be a different reason in 1 or 2 years.
Of course, that concept of using staffing to really have the flexibility in terms of business management, that when you are growing your stable, that's okay. You have a pool of IT staffing that if there's a crisis and you need to fire people, you send people away from both things. But then when you recover, then you can use IT staffing, so a non-fixed cost, let's say, to support the recovery and maybe converting some of those persons to your internal team a long time and recruiting other people. Yeah, that's very, very, very interesting, because I think that some companies don't think about that in that way, you know.
I just add, sorry to interrupt you, I just would like to add that is a tool. You can use different tools in different moments, and as our market grows, and we can use different approaches and different tools to achieve our goals. And one of tools is staff to hire, or hunting, or internal teams, or global teams. It's very important for you to know that now we have different approaches, different tools, and we need to use it wisely.
Interesting. Now going a bit back to the root of the webinar, you know, local versus global. Something that we've discussed previously and that you told me is that companies still tend, and it's not just in one country, to prefer local IT staffing than international IT staffing. But this basically entails some dangers, but it provides some comforts, right? So the dangers is obviously of not having access to a huge talent pool that might be better for their needs, but there's the comfort of not having to deal with different cultures, maybe different languages, and even if they need to pay a bit more for each resource. How do you see this thing about the evolution that we are witnessing now and maybe in the future about this relation between companies using local and or global IT staffing?
Okay, let's put the scenario to understand how this works. Okay, imagine that a company wins, for instance, a German company wins a project in the Nordic countries. Okay, so they will develop the project in the Nordic country, for instance, Sweden, or they will develop the project in Germany. If they will use the German tech professionals that they have, or they will use remote people. If they will use remote people, start to have a problem, okay? Because what they trust more normally is German tech professionals, because it's the type of relations that they create. But at the same time, to be more competitor, it don't make sense to use a more expensive people that are working remote from Germany to Sweden. Why not to use people from Portugal, Spain, Ukraine, let's see here, India, many different people that are in our webinar. So don't make sense this company in Germany that wins a project in Sweden and just move people that they will not move people and use people from Germany. The problem is if this company have partnerships with people outside of Germany to deploy the projects in the confidence that they have with the local partners. So we have here more or less a challenge between use people that they trust or they have experience in the past that are more expensive, but working in a remote environment, or use other partners or other people in other countries that they don't trust so much, but is more cheaper, can have the same quality, but they don't know how to evaluate, for instance, for cultural issues or others. So this is a big challenge for a company to start to win projects across borders if they will use local or external suppliers.
Okay. Bolson, what's your take on this?
Yes, as you mentioned, usually companies are relying on their comfort zone, if I can say that, because we are pretty. It's in our mind. It's faster. We can reach out. We know the channels. We already have our relationships. So we have familiarity, communication issues, and as you mentioned, cultural. But now we are facing huge challenges that we need to address, because I see challenges as opportunities, as Paiva said, because if I have a remote work, I can have a global opportunities for me to grow my company. I as company, stop only looking to the local markets, and companies need to think outside, think cross border for their businesses. They need to evolve to new ideas and new ways to deliver and to handle talents. IT staffing is one, staff to hire is another one, remote work in the pure sense of word is another one. But in the major aspect that the companies needs to evolve their mindset, that they need to think about it. The future for their business is going to touch the international markets and then international talents. So you need to add new tools, add new ways for you to touch and to tap the global talent pool, not as a problem or as a challenge, but as an opportunity for you to grow through your people that comes from international borders or cross borders over the seas, and so on. But it's easy to say, but it's complex to implement. You have to address logistics, cultural fit, communication barriers, multicultural teams. But this is the beauty of our moments today. I think this is a huge opportunity for companies to grow and rely on global talent pool to achieve that.
Yeah. You know,
More, we are talking a lot about people and talent. Let's talk a little about companies, IT staffing companies. So as I say, I'll continue the example that I start. That German company wants to buy service from IT staffing. Do you know what is the biggest problem? Too many IT staffing companies, thousands and thousands of IT staffing companies.
spread.
And the majority don't have no differentiation. So I'm a German company, okay, I'm a German guy, okay. I will select one company for thousands that exist in the market. And from where I will select? From the same time zone or from the zone where the cost is lower, okay? And how can I trust that company that I never worked in the past, that I don't have so many information about that? And that's the biggest challenge, okay, for companies that want to use external companies to as a suppliers to have more external IT people, okay? How to create this trust, or how can we help these companies at least to found these companies? And sometimes the problem is that they will pick a big one because they have a big name, and in the end what they are hiring is just an intermediate, because this big IT staffing company will then use small IT staffing companies, okay? Is the way for the German company be, okay, at least this is a big company, so I can trust more because it's a big company. But in the end, it's just intermediate for other IT staffing companies, smaller, for some small countries. Kosovo is competing a lot, and no one is looking for Kosovo. It's in Europe. It's in the same time zone, more or less like Germany, or in the same time zone of Sweden, the example that I said. Okay, but okay, how can I trust in a company in Kosovo? I don't know no one there. So I will use a big company that maybe will acquire the service for IT staffing company in Kosovo.
Yeah, and I would say that from the perspective of someone which is looking to use IT staffing, there is another thing. I don't want to use more providers because managing this is a lot of trouble. So all the things that you said, aggravated by the thing of, okay, I don't want to really lose a lot of time finding providers for this, probably leads exactly to the phenomenon of using either big companies or not using IT staffing internationally at all, right? But the thing is, it seems like there is this kind of, I don't know, gap that prevents companies to really being able to assess this world of talent opportunities that abound, this world of providers. And the thing is, this is a problem that seems to not have been solved until now, right? Well, so how do you see this?
Yeah,
What is the reason for this?
I've been doing that for such a long time that Paiva, it's and you are totally correct, because we have so many layers sometimes for a big company. Not regarding when you are talking about the corporate, they have lots of constraints and lots of checklists that sometimes an international small firm or a boutique IT company does not fit at all for this huge governance, compliance, and so on. That's why, as Paiva said, most common scenario is to rely to international consultancy companies. So it's a huge gap, and I don't see any company fulfilling that gap in a way that allow a small boutique or specialized IT firms to fulfill that gap. Maybe it's an opportunity to achieve this market as a boutique in an IT staff to hire company, and doing that cross borders over the seas is the same scenario there. The same scenario when you go to a huge company and you need to present all your accountancy books and headcounts, revenues. And if you are a boutique, a specialized IT staffing company, sometimes you are not allowed to be connected directly. You need to rely to a middleman and middlemen sometimes add some costs.
But in one sense, I mean, the clients would like to have access to this international pool of providers in tech talent, and these providers in tech talent would like to access the pool of clients that may be looking for them. But in the middle, there's this problem of trust, and then someone who sits there, like I think Tech Mahindra lives a lot on this. At least that's what I heard in Asia. That sits there and just provides what trust, but at the cost of what? Less efficiency in terms of money, capital. So I don't know. Five, this gap.
Okay. Okay, this gap first, how to discover, okay, because internet is so easy to access and at the same time so hard to find something, okay. Imagine that you write, I need IT staffing companies, okay, and you have thousands of answers, okay. It's something like, is not an option, okay, just put a question like that. So it's necessary to have more than that, okay. At the same time, if the company will lose only one supplier or have more than one supplier, for instance, hire some people that is more specialized, for instance, in data analytics for a supplier that have more experience in that area, and use the Salesforce from other companies that have more experience in that area. Okay, so normally it's hard to find a supplier to manage all of that. So we are discussing here not only cost, but at the same time the expertise. Another amazing thing that is very important for us to discuss is normally IT staffing is not used for young people. It's strange. Companies hiring the youngest people and using IT staffing for senior people. Okay. But to answer to your question is why this is happening. Maybe the answer is this is happening because until today there are no solutions in the market. Maybe it's because is why Landing.Jobs is trying to evolve from recruitment to open our marketplace for the student boutiques IT staffing to apply to this type of opportunities. Is a way for them to achieve the customers. And at the same time give the opportunity to Landing.Jobs to put a save of approval of this type of people that this IT staffing is putting available for the tech professionals. Okay? So there are so many things, and one of the topics is why don't exist these channels to make the match between companies and companies that are looking for each other in a more trustable way.
Yeah, lots of thoughts there, to think about. Because one of the things, for example, that is always interesting to think is about how do you evaluate the talent and the quality of the talent, potentially coming from so many different cultures and countries, and with different IT skills. Bossa, how do you see this? Do you think that companies, for example, imagine a company in the US that, okay, I would like to assess this great thing that would give me talent pools of IT providers for staffing from Bangladesh and Nigeria and Portugal and Ukraine and Brazil. Okay, and then I'll receive people. How do I handle this?
Yeah. So it's challenging, but it's possible. What we are doing now, in addressing your question, is first of all we need to understand the motivation for talents to work abroad and to go abroad and to vet these. Not vet only technical or hard skills, but you need to understand for an international perspective to work how this guy is prepared, or if he has the potential to work abroad and prepared to work abroad in a multicultural team. And of course, in the company perspective, if the company that are trying to reach out this talent is prepared also to have an open mindset, to have multicultural cultural team. Our main focus now is to help international talents to become international ready. And to become international ready is to vet this talent and to understand their motivation and commitment to a challenging opportunity abroad, outside, overseas. There are lots of things you need to check out before you allow to allow this guy to go internationally and to have an international journey, because you need to offer a structured and a safe path and journey for this guy, He needs to trust. We were talking about the trustability from the company perspective, but we also need the trustability on the talent perspective, because it's a big change, it's a huge change. So I think both of these, things there are lots of opportunities, and we are here to work on them and help talents and companies to address it.
Yeah, of course.
I will just read a question that was put by Antonio Perez. That is a very important question. That is, okay, we are talking here about people, but sometimes when I continue the example, the German company wants to hire, request IT staffing company. Okay, if you will use the scoring of the people or the scoring of the company. The problem is that normally don't exist a scoring of a company. This company is better, or in average, they have better resources compared with the other. So in my opinion, there are lack of information in a way to evaluate a company as a package or a bulk of talent that they have internally. Okay, because if we only evaluate one candidate, for instance, I need to create a team of 10 and receive one CV. The CV is amazing. What will be the 10? It will be the same. Okay, so how can we trust the company if we don't have information about the company or external evaluation of a company? Normally, the only information that we have is the company that is selling, that they are the best company in the market. Okay. But there are a lot of tools to evaluate talent. There are not or at least similar solutions to evaluate the quality of a company as a whole. Okay, because in the end, I made an agreement with the IT staffing company. And I know that we can continue and make a commitment with someone from that company. But in the first approach, what the company that needs to use an external IT staffing company is how can we know that this company is better than the other?
This seems like a problem that a lot of marketplaces have had, from eBay to Amazon to Uber, right? Because in the end, you can only really check the quality to the usage of the company. Then, if you have an entity that incentivizes the users to classify and keeps the scores of the reputation of the providers, then that information can be used by the whole market, increasing the level of trust and the level of effectiveness. That's very interesting. Because, for example, these big...
Airbnb uses that. Airbnb uses that. When you rent an house, you have a scoring that was made by the people that use that house in Airbnb. So imagine that we create something that, okay, 10 companies use IT staffing, all of them scoring that company in a way of the quality of the service.
Yeah, but for example, these large companies that provide this multi-level IT staffing, I think that their business is providing that reliability, even though it might be nothing, but at the expense and the cost of having a more costlier, let's say, value or cost for the use of the resources. And one of the things that is also interesting regarding this is, a lot of times there is a problem that I think has to do with the liabilities and the risks. Because let's imagine, continuing on the part regarding the risk. I hire someone that might be someone that is staffed from an IT staffing provider. But for example, this also applies for contractors. And how do I make sure, that I will mitigate my risks in terms of IP theft, of others that are committed to the business continuity of the operation? This trust issue, I think it's very important. So, and I think that obviously there's no 100% safe way to solve this. But for example, having some kind of entity that would provide, I don't know, some insurance for this would be something that would be able to substitute the need to use a large company to be able to provide access to this international talent pool in IT staffing.
Boss, how you do it, Tony?
Yeah. It's totally possible. We have now some good names and that it's in the market, like an employee of record, employment of record, or in the staff to hire also achieves that. how we do that, we put all these things inside of our contract and the mutual contract between the company and the talent, and we handle everything seamlessly, no hustle for the company and for the talent over it. But we do have moments when we can use and rely to employment of a record. That's more an outsourcing of employment requirements and legalities. Or you can go in a company that can handle everything for you in the middle, just to that understand all things you need to handle, but we handle in your behalf, for you not to be, to do not have this structure inside of your company to manage this. You can rely on a company that does that. We do that in Tony, especially specifically for international talents moving abroad, and try to bring international talents to become part of the local talent pool.
Okay, interesting.
But Laura, you bring one of the most hard question with a more hard answer. Is how to lead with this correlation between the talent and the final customer that is using the talent. José also talked about EOR, okay, employer of record is when someone is hired from two different countries, but there are no labor laws from, for instance, from Europe country compared with US country. So that's we need to have a company in the middle. Okay? The question is, unfortunately, there are a lot of discussion in the market, especially lawyers, to talk how to treat this situation. And the things are not evolving in a good direction because they are trying to treat employer of record more like a temporary worker. That's not the case, okay? Or some of them are trying to create some hard constraints to avoid to evolve employer of record. Okay, so what is happened in the end, we are creating levels, so a company needs to hire the people locally to sell to other company in other country, or in employer of record approach, or in IT staffing approach. Okay, but in the end, what is important in here is to understand that compliance must be a flow from the customer that buys a company service, and the company that have the relation with the employee, and all of them must be signed with the contract agreement of intellectual capital or other type of request that normally exist. But the biggest problem is that the people are fighting about something that's impossible to fight today, that people want to work remotely. And more than work remotely, some people want to choose the country to work remotely too. Okay, some people prefer to move from the countries with worst weather to countries with best weather, and work remote to that countries. Okay, and how to live with this? So what we are seeing is that the markets start to work in a box, like European countries. Some companies want to work only want to use people remotely if they are in a European zone country. Some, for instance, United States prefer to use only people from countries that are more or less that understand or at least accept the laws from United States, and the other block in Asia. Okay, because compliance is very hard. Imagine to put a West company with a West with a European country with a China company. Forget that. If they have problems, no one will solve the situation, because the rules first to decide what will be the rules that they will use, and they will never achieve an agreement.
Okay. Very, very interesting, all those considerations. This part regarding the risks, for example, Paiva reminds me of a product of agent of record, where we, besides taking care of the payroll of contractors, we also ensure the liability risk through civil and professional insurance. And that's something that's more and more valid. Well, one thing we see which is interesting, you talked about EOR recently, and one of the discussions that I've been hearing is, okay, but what is the difference between IT staffing and EOR? In both cases, the worker is not paid by the company that he is working for, right? So how do you see this?
Okay, to answer that question, we must go back to the problems that we discussed, if the employees will be treated as the same or not. For instance, if the company create a very split between an employee and external people, okay, so IT staffing is very, very different compared with employer of record, where the company will say, no, no, this is remote people in other countries, but that's my employee. Okay, so if the companies treat this in the same way, so use an employer, hire someone out using employer of record or using an IT staffing person, it will be the same. So I just said that if the company wants to treat people well, it's not important the way that they use to request the service for that person.
We could join contractors there, right?
Yes, including contractors, okay? Because normally the problem about contractors compared with companies is more if companies want more, again, security or more trust if something went wrong, okay? And this is why some companies ask for some insurance, okay? And if you ask a big amount, if you put a big amount in the insurance, okay, it's not possible for an independent contractor to pay there. Okay, but if you ask IT staffing company or other type of company to do it for 10 employees, it's not a problem. So you can give that big amount of insurance because you have a big team. And that's one of the problems why some independent contractors normally they need to go to some company to deliver their service to a more corporate or more wider risk companies.
Okay, so now let's go for the audience. Even though there are not a lot of questions, we have some. I'll start here for by the question that João Padeiro poses, which he asks: can global IT staffing agencies provide the same level of personalized service as local agencies to companies located in different parts of the world? So again, I think that this is the question of if a local company, a local IT staffing company, and an international IT staffing company in another country can provide the same level of service. Bosa, your take on this first. Please.
Yeah, it's the great question, and it's not easy because mainly who are trying to reach out the company needs to have a pattern or a way to address the different countries in a different way to deliver. Sometimes there are some differences, and the company needs to be aware of it. But it's totally possible. There are lots of companies doing that, trying to achieve that. And it's a huge market that it's growing and growing more, and it's totally feasible. Our concern when we go in this kind of situations, it's exactly you have to be aware to treat people as the same. Do not treat different situations or different people in different situations in different scenarios. You have to have a pattern to do it, because sometimes you have issues to accomplish your goals, to deliver your project. And this thing of multicultural working environment is pretty important to address and evaluate before you move to hiring different agencies in different places. That's my mainly concern.
But for example, I was looking again at the comment from Antonio Perez, and I think that what he expresses is probably felt by a lot of business leaders in companies. It's okay, I could use external providers and diversify, but at the same time, the management cost, the effort to really be able to go, and the risk that I stumble into a provider that is not prepared, and that has not prepared their talent for this, might be huge. According to the knowledge that you have of from the provider side, do you think that something is changing in that these international providers, let's say, I'm not talking about the huge companies, but the smaller companies, international, that they are beginning to prepare themselves more and more? For example, one of the cases that I know more was, before the unfortunate war in Ukraine was providing a lot of IT services to Germany, to UK, to the US. So there was this connection, even though the culture it was a bit different, but it was really working, you know. So I don't know extensively how this works around the world, but probably know better than me. Do you see the local providers of IT staffing adapting to this?
Yes, I see a lot in America continent, a lot of it. Especially I see in developing countries, most of the companies are trying to teach English to the local workers to be able to export their services. So the communication language or language for communication, it's mostly spoken is in English. It's a main reason of lots of companies are putting lots of efforts investing in academies to help talents to be prepared of it. That's exactly what we do also here to help international talents to improve their English skills. It's pretty important to work here in Europe, from Portugal to other countries, but also to help talents to prepare in their journey to work internationally, to handle different time zones that you need to work asynchronously, to understand the target culture of the target company that you are working. You need to teach people how to do it in like a role play scenarios before you put the talent in front of the challenge, you know. So I see lots of differences and initiatives. We do our initiative here, Talent On International Experiences, International Ready program, exactly to achieve cultural fit, communication fit, and tech reshape.
Hi, for what about you? According to your experience, you have been talking with international providers, and I know that recently. So,
Okay, first, when we start landing jobs, okay, I went to, I make a travel first to Germany to understand how the market is accepting international talent, okay, and make travel, for instance. And it was interesting to see how German companies open the tech teams to, for instance, to work in English. Okay, and when I look back, this happened 5 years ago, and in 5 years, so many things changed. Okay, COVID accelerated a lot of things, and I'm seeing that the people are some step forward in terms of working in this new environment where everyone can work from anywhere. But at the same time, the companies don't give that step forward. Okay, so companies need to evolve to be in the same level as people are today. So people are very open. They prepare it. Or if they are, if some of them don't prepare, they are looking to prepare, like Bosa said, to learn English, because learning English now is more or less the main language to use in remote. But what we are seeing is that the companies are thinking in a old school, thinking in a manufacturing building or office building. Okay, and for instance, what we are seeing in some countries, they are working in a way that is old school. I will open a tech center, like opening a manufacturing. Look, there are no companies saying, I will create a remote team. So I will have 10 teams, but they said, I want to create one more team. Let's choose a country to open a tech center. Why not to say to the companies? Why not to say, if you have 10 teams, why not to create one remote team? Okay, where you bring people across or in the same time zone, define the structure of that remote team and put all of that people in the team, work with the same tools, process, more agile or whatever, to be clear to everyone that the remote team is competing without office, without the constraint that the other ways of working have. But the problem is the companies are one step back or more compared with people. And that's why I'm seeing a lot of fights between people and companies. Okay, companies is beating more to evolve to office or hybrid. Okay, and people are say remote to hybrid, but not to the office. So how to balance or to bring this, and I believe that can be an amazing webinar to discuss all of that fights that exist today between the the people are some more steps forward compared with the companies, and that's very hard today to fit the two ideas of how to work together. Okay, and if the companies don't evolve in that direction, it will be hard to use more IT staffing and use international IT staffing. Will continue to look as local or near or something because they are looking in the old way, where remote is not present in their minds. And that's something that if the companies don't change, again, is a problem at the same time, an opportunity for companies that will look to that as an opportunity to start to look not only for remote talent, but to look to remote international IT staffing companies.
Cool. Well, we are 1 hour from the beginning right now, so we're about to end. So I'm going to ask you to leave some final remark, tip, whatever you want, in 30 seconds, because these people probably have some meetings to go to. Bolsa, can you start?
Yeah, for sure. Thank you guys for the opportunity to talk here and leaving with the guys the opportunity to gain a competitive edge using global talent pool. It's pretty important for your company. Open your minds, but try to blend the different approach. There is no one size fits all. You need to evaluate your scenario and try to wisely choose the tools for your company and use proper staffing IT companies or staff to hiring approach to reach out to your main goals and treat people as people and teams as teams, independently of their countries or their native language. Try to collaborate with them. That's it. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Bolsa.
What I'm seeing here is that market is in a freeze in hiring. Okay, so the companies that will look in a more strategic way for ICT staffing opportunities to use more external IT people will be the companies that will run fast in the short term. Because in my opinion, the hiring freeze will be here during more time. Okay, so if the companies are not allowed to increase the talent, they will not have capacity to deliver more. So the companies need to evaluate internally what will be the strategy for next 1 or 2 years.
Yeah, so we have seen this sometimes in the past in other crises. Yeah. Okay, so thank you, Paio. Thank you, Bolsa, for your great experience and your sharing of the knowledge and opinions. It was, I think, a great webinar. I hope that you, our beloved audience, enjoyed it and find it as useful as I have. We'll be having more webinars on these topics and others regarding to HR management, between recruitment, staffing, soft landing, wherever. Thank you again for being. This link will be in this link. It will be available, the recording of this, if you want to share with someone or to review it. And have a great day. Have a great life. Hope to see you again here. Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.